suspects are being. One case involves the FBI is now offering $100,000 to see for the police are releasing.
Welcome to Misty Mysteries. I'm your host Keely, and this is a paranormal and true crime podcast. Today is part 2 of Bobby Mackey's Music World. Last week I covered the crimes and deaths related to the bar. If you haven't already, I would suggest you go check that episode out before listening to this one. But this week I'm going to go into the dark hauntings that take place at the bar today. Let's first discuss what the bar was used for before it became Bobby Mackey's Music World. In the first part, I talked about the slaughterhouse that many believe Scott Jackson performed satanic rituals in, and where he disposed of Pearl's head. This slaughterhouse was built sometime in the 1850s on the property in Wilder, Kentucky. It served as both a slaughterhouse and meatpacking facility before it shut down in the 1890s, and the rumors of satanic cults taking over the slaughterhouse were not made until 2001 in a book written about Bobby Mackey's. But the time that it's believed to have happened was when the slaughterhouse closed in the 1890s. And then in the early 1900s, the slaughterhouse was demolished, and when Prohibition happened in the States, a new building that is still standing today was built in the 1920s and opened as a casino, nightclub, and speakeasy. When the Prohibition ended in 1933, a man named Buck Brady bought the building, keeping it a casino, which he renamed Primrose. Primrose was in operation for over a decade, but like any successful money-making business, especially casinos at this time, the mob operating in the Cincinnati area caught wind of Brady's success and wanted it for themselves. The mobsters tried to push their way into Primrose, and Brady was just not interested in this. He refused to work with or sell it to the mob, but Brady and his customers were met with violence after he took his stand. Mobsters would wait for customers to come out of Primrose to threaten them and pick fights until Brady took matters into his own hands. This time, he drew a gun on a mobster named Albert Red Masterson, and Brady was charged with attempted murder. Brady left the casino business shortly after this in 1946, closing down Primrose, but it wasn't empty for too long. In the 1950s, the building was reopened as a casino with fine dining and dancing, and this was named the Latin Quarter. During this time is when Johanna, who I talked about last week, fell in love with a singer named Robert Randall, who performed at the casino regularly. Johanna became pregnant with Randall's baby, and before she got the chance to run away with him, her father used his connections to the mob to have Randall murdered. Johanna, when she found out about what happened to Randall, poisoned her father and ended up taking her own life in the Latin Quarter, where she met Randall. After their deaths, the Latin Quarter remained open till the early months of 1978. When it closed down after a series of physical assaults and shootings, it left the police with no other options but to close the place down. Fortunately, and maybe unfortunately, depending on who you ask, just months later in 1978, the country music singer Bobby Mackey purchased the building to fulfill his dream of owning his own country music hall and bar. From the start of Bobby Mackey's Music World, it showed its connection to the paranormal world, with Bobby feeling an instant connection to it, as well as others believing Bobby could be Johanna's Randall reincarnated. See, Bobby Mackey's full name is Robert Randall Mackey, and on Ghost Adventure's first episode, at the location, they interviewed him where it was shared that his name was just Randy on the day he was born, but his mom changed it to Robert Randall Mackey. Of course, the man that Johanna was in love with was named Robert Randall as well. With name similarities, an instant connection, and draw to the building, plus he has written a song about Johanna, this is why many people believe Bobby could be Randall reincarnated. Bobby himself does not believe this, sharing that it is a common name, and he does not believe in reincarnation. Bobby is actually skeptical of the paranormal, even after all of these years, but he does believe his staff, family, and customers when they share their encounters. He even has his own catchphrase, "Come for the ghost and stay for the music." and has added a sign you can see right when you enter the bar that reads, "Welcome to our patrons. This establishment is proprietary to be haunted. Management is not responsible and cannot be held liable for any actions of any ghosts or spirits on the premises." With that warning, it really makes you wonder what actions may be cause for warning. Let's talk about the most common ones first. A female voice can be heard throughout the bar, humming and talking. Heavy footsteps can be heard coming from behind the stage and on the dance floor. Knocks can be heard throughout the building, and growling is heard in the basement. A male can be heard talking to people very aggressively and having conversations in the men's restroom. The smell of roses or rose perfume is often smelled throughout the bar, which is believed to be Johanna's perfume. Chairs can be seen moving, and a blue orb is seen on the dance floor. Shadowed figures are seen all throughout the building, and in the basement, a cowboy-looking shadow is seen the most by employees of Bobby Mackey's. Lights flicker, especially near the pool table. Guests and employees will feel a cat brush against their legs, and someone will grab their shoulders and arms aggressively. Lastly, but most disturbing to me, females at the bar get grabbed or touched inappropriately, and spirits will follow people home from the bar. When it comes to personal encounters, one of the most well-known experiences comes from a man named Carl Lawson. Carl was 18 years old when he became caretaker of Bobby Mackey's, Bobby's first employee and eventually Bobby's best friend. His job involved painting, cleaning, and fixing anything that needed to be done around the building. He eventually became permanent caretaker of Bobby Mackey's and moved into a small room in the attic of the building. Carl had a lot of experiences while living at Bobby Mackey's, as you can imagine. From experiencing many of the same things that others have, to feeling like he was constantly being watched, especially in his room. He would put a stay out sign on the door to keep the spirits out, block the door shut, and slept with a gun beside his bed. He would have very intense nightmares while living at the bar. In particular, nightmares about an entity he named Charlie. This entity kept taunting him, telling him he needed to go down to the basement, and when he finally did, it unleashed something that took over Carl. While he was in the basement, he unearthed the old well that the animal's blood was thrown into, and where some believe Pearl's head was disposed. It's believed that after this, Carl became possessed. And on August 8th, 1991, a member of the church came into Bobby Mackey's to perform an exorcism on Carl. In a minute here, I'm going to play you an audio clip from a Ghost Adventures episode where they play a video of his exorcism from Bobby Mackey's. If you don't want to hear this, skip ahead about 30 seconds or so.
Charlie, it's time for you to leave. Yes, you are. Leaving. Leaving. You gotta leave tonight. I don't have to go, no. Yeah, you do. This body is mine. No, it's not. This body is mine. No, it's not. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth and on the authority of God's word, I command every spirit to leave. Leave him, Charlie.
You've seen that many times?
Not many, but I've seen it, and I'll say what I've always said about it. Carl was not an actor.
Right.
And that's what disturbs me about it, because I never saw Carl like that.
Right.
During this exorcism, at one point, Carl remembers he was all of a sudden standing with his hands around the throat of the exorcist. Despite his possession and exorcism, Carl still stayed at the bar till he retired from his position as caretaker. Carl loved Bobby Mackey's so much. After leaving, he would call the other employees to ask if Bobby would let him come back to work. Sadly, Carl passed away on January 27th, 2012, at the age of 53. But he left his mark with not only the people who he met and loved him, but also with Bobby Mackey's music world. Many believe he is still there even after his death. His face has been seen by those who knew him. His voice has also been caught on EVPs for multiple investigations, including one with Wanda Kay. Wanda knew Carl, and he was friends with her, since they had both worked at Bobby Mackey's for over 10 years. And I do believe Wanda still works there as a paranormal tour guide. During this investigation, the man who was with Wanda had cut his finger before coming into the bar. When he walked into the bar, she asked him if he would like a band-aid for his finger. At first, he told her that it would be fine, but halfway through the tour, he was still bleeding, and she left to go get him a band-aid. When she came back with the band-aid while wrapping it around his finger, they caught an EVP, which she says is Carl's voice, and it does sound like Carl, saying, "Where's the band-aid, Mickey?" Carl is also felt around the bar, but especially when people are in his room. But Carl is not the only caretaker who loves or feels drawn to the bar. After Carl retired, security guard Matt Coates took on the position of caretaker for Bobby Mackey's and seems to be very affected by the spirits there. Matt gets affected in a very negative way. While at work, he explains that his mood will shift to anger and he will pop off on people, which he says is not like him. He is constantly returning his keys and leaving the job only to be right back the next day because he feels like he should be there. It's an almost comforting place in a way. Most of his encounters have happened in the basement. He sees a shadow figure. One in particular reminds him of a cowboy. Matt often becomes sick and will start to feel sad or angry when in the basement. He has also been scratched, but he has also been attacked by spirits upstairs in the bar area. Matt even claims that he has been at the beginning of possession, or as Bishop James Long calls it, a demonic oppression. When the bishop was investigating the basement, he gave a blessed medallion necklace to Matt that made his neck burn. But the bishop told him that this meant it was protecting him and getting rid of the spirits trying to possess him. After receiving the necklace from the bishop, Matt never took it off. He would often play with it, and he truly treasured it. But one night at the bar, there was an altercation, and the other person pulled it off of his neck. It wasn't till about an hour later he noticed it wasn't on him, and at that point, it's a busy bar, the necklace was gone. Matt felt like, from that moment on, his life went a bad direction. He started to experience a lot of anger, which got him into a fight he doesn't remember but knows he hurt someone. His long-term relationship of about 7.5 years ended, and he eventually had to call back the bishop to get an exorcism performed on him. Matt shared with Zach on an Aftershock Ghost Adventure episode he wishes Bobby and Wanda would get rid of investigations in the bar because he feels like it just stirs the spirits up, and when the investigators get to leave, the staff has to live with the spirits as they work and go about their daily lives. Even Bobby's own family has had encounters with the bar that left them never wanting to come back. His late wife, Janet Mackey, who passed away in 2009, had someone push her down the set of stairs that led to Carl's room, followed by a man yelling at her to get out. Janet left after that and refused to ever go back into the bar. Then, Bobby's oldest daughter, Anita, never even stepped foot into the bar. She went to the bar to check it out with her dad, and she told Bobby that it smelled like roses on a grave, and she refused to ever go in there. Many people have entered this bar, and it's taken over their lives, or made them never want to come back, from people like Carl or Matt, to Janet, and even some paranormal investigators, like Aaron Goodwin from Ghost Adventures. He refuses to ever step foot back in that bar. He believes that something followed him home from Bobby Mackey's that played a very large factor in the downfall of his marriage. Whatever followed him home would give both him and his ex-wife horrible dreams and nightmares of Bobby Mackey's music world. They would hear knocks on the windows from something standing outside the home, and when Aaron was away traveling with Ghost Adventures for work, the spirit would torment his ex-wife. And with all this happening, they eventually agreed to end their marriage. But what are more casual or particular spirits? In the men's bathroom of the bar, one cowboy spirit doesn't seem to be a big fan of the guests who use it. He is heard talking, sometimes growling, or making loud noises. He has even attacked patrons of the bar while in the restroom. On Ghost Adventure's first investigation, which is actually their first episode as well, this spirit went after Nick Groff. When Nick went to use the restroom during their investigation, there was a big loud thud. Nick freaked out, started to run away. Zach told him, "You need to stop running and you need to face it." As they confronted the spirit, a big, huge, loud thud happened again and all the men left. Meanwhile, in Joanna's dressing room, her perfume can still be smelled and her humming can be heard. Many who visit the bar say they can pick up on energy at the bar and see glasses fall off tables, but I found that a lot of people's encounters are from paranormal investigators. And, they're very intense. I couldn't find a whole lot on people who visited besides just feeling very sick and off. But what do you think? Have you ever visited Bobby Mackey's? I would love to hear what you think of it and if you experienced anything if you visited. Now, before ending today's episode, I have a very special and exciting announcement for Gemini season. And to celebrate my birthday this Friday, I will be releasing a very cute Gemini-inspired merch in my merch store. If you're a Gemini or you know a Gemini and need to buy for one in their birthday season, please check it out and use my promo code June22 for 10% off or MMFriends for free shipping. Those promo codes will be in the description if you would like to check out the new Gemini merch, as well as some of the other new merch I have been putting out. For now, I want to thank you for listening. I truly appreciate you all. Please stay safe, stay hydrated, and I will see you next week.